Right before the new year, the Toronto Raptors rocked the foundation of their core by trading OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks in exchange for Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. So let's revisit that trade after having some sample of these players with their new teams to determine who was the real winner of this trade. Let's get into it. If you don't already know, this is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to providing you Toronto Raptors content and videos like this, as well as live streams on the channel. Drop a like if you enjoy this one along the way, and subscribe because we're very close to that 17,000 sub milestone, and when we get there, we got 2 Raptors jerseys ready to give away. You do not want to miss out. But today we're talking about that OG Anunoby trade to the New York Knicks. It was the trade that brought Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett to the Raptors. We've had a few months now for this one to simmer. We've seen the players on their new teams, and we can come with a better sort of idea as to who was the winner of this trade. Now, there's only really a preliminary assessment on who is the real winner of this trade because time will tell. Down the line, we'll have a better indication of where the real winner lies within this trade. But at this certain point, at this present moment, has this worked out for the Toronto Raptors, who have fallen into obscurity in the NBA's Eastern Conference? Has this worked out for the New York Knicks, who they're right in the mix of a playoff battle, perhaps fighting for a home playoff seed? Well, let's just dissect what the trade looked like when it happened. December 30th, 2023, the Raptors send OG Anunoby, Precious Achiuwa, and Malachi Flynn to the New York Knicks, and in return, they get Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and a second-round pick for this season via the Detroit Pistons. So pretty much a first-round pick, a very late/early second-round pick coming to the Raptors from the Detroit Pistons there. So a nice little sweetener to add on to the deal. Now, as for the New York side of things, OG Anunoby has been terrific for the New York Knicks when he's healthy, and he hasn't been healthy that often. This was part of the concern overall in any sort of trade involving OG Anunoby. He's only played in 17 games since arriving with the Knicks, but you really feel the presence when he is there. The Knicks are 15-2 when OG Anunoby has played. And on top of OG Anunoby being the player that this team maybe needed, like Precious Achiuwa, who was a complete afterthought for the trade, has actually performed quite well for the Knicks. It didn't feel as though he would fit within the Tom Thibodeau system. He's done just that. His role has been pretty simplified here. And I think that's helping him. He's not having to overthink. I think it's best, I don't know how to put this respectfully, I think it's best when he thinks less and just needs to do his job out there on the floor. And he's doing that with the New York Knicks, so full credit to Precious Achiuwa. That's a little bit of an added bonus to the trade. The Knicks, they had nothing to do with Malachi Flynn. They traded him away to Detroit Pistons. This is coming the day after Malachi Flynn had a 50-point game, but that's not really the main component of this trade here. The Knicks didn't really want him. The Raptors didn't really want him. He really is just an afterthought, an actual afterthought within the trade. For the Raptors' perspective, yes, this season has spiraled out of control, but this was the trade that started this whole thing. And it was a monumental day for the Raptors, the fan base, and more importantly, the front office. It was the confirmation from the front office to the fans, to the organization, that this whole thing, this whole core, it just wasn't going to work. OG was on an expiring contract, and still is. Pascal Siakam was on an expiring contract. The Raptors just realized that this whole thing wasn't going to work. Fans had recognized it probably a year and a half prior, but there was a recognition that it wasn't going to work. So there was a commitment that, yes, we might make this team worse in the present, clearly, but we have better preparation for the future. So even with the Raptors and this fat losing streak that they're on right now, when RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley both return from their personal leaves of absence, they return against the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, the Raptors did lose that game, but seeing those guys play again and performing as well as they did once again, which they have done so consistently for the Raptors, particularly RJ Barrett, who has been sensational for the Raptors, it was just that reminder that I definitely needed. I think a lot of people needed that, okay, it sucks right now, but at least we have some sort of direction. Like, we're going somewhere with this group of players. Whereas previously, like to start the season in 2023 when we were playing, it was just every loss was like, what are we doing? We are bad. We have no plan for the future. We're going nowhere. Now at least we have that reminder, that glimmer of hope that this team could be going somewhere, especially again with the play overall of Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. And I said most notably RJ Barrett. I got to say, was completely wrong about this. When the trade initially happened, I liked it. I thought it was a pretty balanced trade overall, but I was focused on Immanuel Quickley coming to the Raptors. Wasn't really concerned much about RJ Barrett. I thought, okay, it's cool. You got RJ in the deal. They probably just wanted to get off that contract and, at least there's some potential to work with. But like RJ Barrett, oh my goodness. Forgive me for my doubts, but he is a completely different player with the Raptors. Like, just take a look at these numbers here. He's jumped from 18 points per game to 21 points per game. He's gone from 2.4 assists to 4.1 assists, 4.3 rebounds to 6.2 rebounds. But I utterly cannot fathom the progression with his shooting and his efficiency. Like, RJ Barrett with the New York Knicks was known as, rightfully so, an inefficient player. Tunnel vision, took bad shots, completely transformed his game in Toronto. His effective field goal percentage in New York was 47.8. Like, that's bad for any player. That's just not good. He has upped it in Toronto all the way to 60.9 because his field goal percentage has jumped from 423 to 55.5. His three-point percentage has jumped from 33.1 all the way up to 42.5. And it's a good sample of games. He played 26 with the New York Knicks. So far, he's played 28 with the Toronto Raptors. Like, he has completely transformed his game in Toronto. He is much more assured on the ball. He is getting to the rim. He is actually getting to the rim. He's not settling for bad shots. He's knocking down his threes. Completely different player for this Toronto Raptors team. And we've seen some points of improvement as well for Immanuel Quickley, not to the same degree, but Immanuel Quickley is putting up a higher level of points at 17.7 compared to 15. Way more assists, which is great, playing in the point guard position, learning a bit of a different role from being the two guard in New York to Jalen Brunson. He's gone from 2.5 to 6.5 assists. He's upped his rebounding in the additional minutes, but unfortunately, we've had a bit of a drop in efficiency for Immanuel Quickley. He's gone from 45.4% to 42.1% in Toronto. 3% is exactly the same at 39.5, but that effective field percentage is going to drop compared to what he was doing in New York. 54.9 in New York in 30 games and 51.5 in 34 games with the Raptors. So we've seen improvements, and as much as there's been maybe a little bit of a decrease in the efficiency in Immanuel Quickley's game, we've seen some great strides from him, and this is a great player to have for the future. He's going to be restricted free agent end of the season. Raptors will have control over his future, so the Raptors got to feel pretty happy about having that sort of direction going forward, and obviously that was enhanced by trading away Pascal Siakam, bringing in a ton of draft picks. The situation was started by that OG Anunoby trade. So looking at the situation right now, at the time of the trade, I would have said this feels like a slight win for the Raptors. And the fact that RJ Barrett has grown to be such an incredible talent for the Raptors, hopefully this may continue into next season. I don't really see why, I don't think it'll be quite to this degree of efficiency, but the decision-making has improved so sharply. I imagine that's going to remain for RJ Barrett, and he's going to continue to be an extremely productive player for this team. But would that addition of RJ Barrett no longer being the addition to the trade and being a main component of this trade for the Raptors, this has to feel like a win for the Raptors. From the New York Knicks perspective, OG Anunoby's been hurt a lot, and it will come down to whether or not he resigns New York. Now, it's looking likely that OG will remain in New York beyond this season and will sign an extension. And hey, they got an additional boost by getting good minutes out of a Precious Achiuwa, who's on an expiring contract, and they probably enjoy having the flexibility of taking him off the books if they do feel as though that is the best course of action with Precious Achiuwa. So I think both teams will probably look at this one and say they won the trade. The Knicks, obviously, when OG is healthy, when he is healthy, they understand how important he can be to their team. Precious Achiuwa has been a nice boost to that team for the remainder of the season here. But the Raptors get two seemingly high-quality young products in this trade that are really going to help build this core for the future. It still feels as though the Raptors were the winners. I felt at the time they were the very slight winners in this trade, but I don't think it's like a massive difference here. I think both teams are overall very happy, but if I had to choose a winner here, I think it's pretty safe to say that the Raptors are going to be the winners of this trade, and I think that will be even more reflective as time goes on. But just for like my sake, selfishly as a Raptors fan, It feels really good amidst this losing streak to know that there is a plan in place for the future, at least on court with the players involved. It feels good to know that there are young players here, young talented players that I have a good degree of trust in to try and revive what this team has become this season. But what do you make of this situation? What do you make of the trade 3 months later? Do you think the Raptors were winners or losers? Who was the real winner in the trade? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe for more Raptors content, and I'll see you again next time for another video.